Hello and welcome to the first part of the new interaction system series. In this tutorial, we will be making a system that allows us to make an object do a specific action when the game requires it to do so. We will start by making a door that can be opened and closed by the player with the press of a button. For now, we will start with a new project. I already have my project ready, so go ahead and make a new Unity project if you want to follow along. You can press here. First thing we're going to do, as always, is create a cube and set its size to make a ground. So the way to do this is just setting this to 20.25 and 20. This will make a nice ground for now. Now we will create our door. You can make yours however way you want to, but for this tutorial's sake we will be doing a pretty simple door made of cubes. Let's make it. Just gonna make a simple cube, and we're gonna resize it a little. Just like that. Just pretty simple. And I'm gonna move this out of the way. Now that we have our door, let's make a new material and add it to it. Let's make a folder called materials and make a new material and call it door. Let's change the color, give it a darker vibe, and then just set it there. Well, let's change the name of it to door. This way it'll make it easier for us to see the door from the game view. Let's move it up a little. Alright, now let's make a prefab of it so we can use it wherever we want later on. We can just do this by dragging it in the assets folder, but we'll first make a prefabs folder. Let's just drag it in. Alright, now that we have the prefab, let's quickly position the camera in a way so we can actually see the door when we press play correctly. Just it'll make it easier for later. So as you can see, we can see the door from here, but it's not really a good angle, so we're just gonna put the camera like the camera in the editor is right now. And the way to do this is just pressing on the camera object and going game object align with view. And now the game camera is correctly set up. Now we're ready to start writing some code for the door to open and close. Let's make a script and call it door. Make a scripts folder. Oops. And inside it, create C# script and call it door. And before we do anything else, let's quickly add the new script we created to the door object. Alright, now make sure to apply the prefab. And now let's go into the script. I'll just clean it up a little. Just get a little closer like this. Alright, now let's think about what exactly it is that a door does when it's opened. As we all know, a door rotates, so what we're going to be dealing with in the script is a change of rotation of the door. This means that we need to have a variable that tells us what the goal of the rotation is. That is, what the rotation of the door will be when it's opened. So the way to do this is just having a vector3, and we can call it open rotation. For now, we will just give it a default value of 0, 90, and 0. Now that we have this, let's give it a default value. Alright, so that's our default value. Now, don't worry too much about trying to make this value perfect now, since we can tweak it later, and we can't really see how this rotation will look now anyways. We can now write an update function, and inside this update function, a really simple rotation will occur. We will just be lerping the current rotation of the door towards the open rotation. This is done by using a slurp, which is another version of the vector3 lerp that just spherically interpolates. Now, a simpler way to put that is just it's the same thing as a lerp, but for rotations. The way to do this is just going transform.local Euler angles, which is the rotation angles of the object, and saying that that is equal to a vector3.slurp from the current Euler angles to the rotation we want, and just using the delta time. Now this will rotate our door. Now that we have this, you can go ahead and test it. So let's go back to Unity and see how it looks. Alright, let's check if this is set up. It's set up. Now let's press play. As you can see, the door rotates, but we can see that we're having a bit of a problem. The door is rotating around itself instead of rotating around a pivot like a door would do in real life. This is a pretty simple thing to fix. We will create an object, and we will actually be positioning this object where the door pivots should be. So we will position it around here. Then we will parent the door to it, and we can name this new object door pivot and save this as a prefab instead of the door. Now what we need to do is just delete the script from the door and add it to the pivot. This will make it so we rotate that object, which will consequentially just rotate the door around itself. That will make it look correctly. As you can see here, if we rotate this object, the door rotates correctly. Let's test and see. As you can see now, the door actually rotates around the pivot, making it look a lot more realistic. The only problem right now is that we can't really control the speed at which the door opens. In order to fix this, let's go back to our code and add a variable for it. Now, this variable will be a float, so we can tweak the speed whichever way we want. So we're going to call it speed, just simply speed, and we're going to give it a default value of 0.5. You can give it whichever value you want. We will now multiply the time.delta time value that we're currently using to advance the lerp by the speed value. This will allow us to control the speed. And now that that's done, let's save, and let's quickly get back to Unity. Now, as you can see, we actually have the value here, and when we press play, the door will rotate a lot slower than it did before. Now let's clean up the code a little bit. Instead of having all this, which kind of clutters the screen, we'll just make a float value, and we will call it speed or time, and it'll just be the delta time multiplied by the speed, and we will be using this here instead, just to make the code a little shorter. Now this is the same thing, so we don't need to test it really. And that's it for our first tutorial on how to make an interaction system in Unity. In the next tutorial, we'll be adding a way to close the door and a button to transition between the two states. As always, please leave a like if you found this tutorial helpful, and subscribe for more. Also, comment if you have any questions on results for other tutorials or requests.